Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. This is my first as well as like introductory video. So before I go any further, I think it's good to introduce myself. So my name is Shubhrima and I'm a biotechnologist by profession. I finished my PhD where my work mostly focused on microbial enzymes and a bit of nanotechnology. And I'm also a ardent traveler and a bit of enthusiastic dancer, you can say. So this channel I have thought of sharing my shared interest about travel, about science and everything in between. So I hope you like it. So I think wherever you are at this point of time, I guess we all are in kind of a difficult situation. All of us might be in kind of a lockdown or under quarantine, and things are perhaps not going to change for the time being. It's of course going to improve in the coming time. We believe in that. So why we ended up in this kind of a situation, and what we hear about all this time are about coronaviruses and the disease COVID. So through this video, I'm trying to share my knowledge about the information that I have learned about COVID. I'm not an expert, so whatever I share is mostly what I have studied and thought of sharing with all of you. And also the disclaimer is that the area about coronaviruses, the research about coronaviruses is generally evolving in nature, right? Because we currently know a lot, but it's going to our knowledge is going to enhance more and more as more research is getting done, more information, we know more about the virus, its genome and everything. So yeah, if you watch this video at a later time, some of the facts might not hold true, and I hope at this point it helps. Okay, so coronaviruses or the disease causing SARS-CoV2 is basically the organism, the virus basically, not an organism, because viruses are often thought to be in between the living and the non-living. So are coronaviruses new? No, right? There were a lot of coronaviruses that have attacked human beings and other species throughout the history. Okay, so there was SARS, which happened in the year 2002 in China mostly, and but the good part was that it was contained. There were around 8,000 cases and it was contained. Secondly, there was another eruption of this kind of a virus which was called the MERS, the Middle East Respiratory Syndrome, which happened in 2009 in Middle East and spread to some parts of London and other countries. But again, it was contained before it could spread like a pandemic. But in case of the SARS-CoV2 or the nCoV that we are talking about, which causes the disease COVID, so there's a stark distinction between the disease, which is COVID, and the virus, which is the SARS-CoV2. Okay, SARS again stands for the severe acute respiratory syndrome, and the disease COVID stands for the corona, which is the CO, virus, which is VI, and D for the disease. So that's how the COVID, and it originated in the year 2019 in all probability from the province of Wuhan in China, and then it spread all over, and we know how it spreads. So we're going to talk a little bit about this coronavirus, the SARS-CoV2 here, and why it's important to study about it, and how the study of this virus can actually help us in finding out the cure for it or safe practices against it. So understanding the name corona itself has a lot of clue to it. Okay, the word corona itself means like a sheath, like a crown around a structure, right? So we would use this word corona for, say, solar eclipses, where we see it's the corona inside, like the outside of the sun. Similarly, when you talk of the structure of this virus has an outer layer which has a lot of spikes on its surface, right? It's of course a spherical structure, and I hope you all remember, like in our childhood, used to play with this squishy balls, like with a jelly feel with those spikes. So exactly, the virus has a similar structure to it, and the corona which develops the coronas are actually small proteins which are known as the peplomas. Okay, so these are spike proteins which gives this corona-like appearance to this virus, and also these spike proteins are actually the cause of the infection, right? We'll talk about it a bit later. So talking of the structure, the envelope of this virus is actually formed out of a lipid bilayer, okay? So simply put, lipids are fats, okay? So you can imagine the outer layer of this virus to be formed out of lipids, okay? And over it, there are small spike proteins which give it a corona-like appearance. In addition to these proteins, there are also other proteins known as the envelope protein and the membrane protein. So when it is important to understand that since the outer layer of this virus is formed out of fat, this is actually a way which can help us to kill this virus. And that is exactly the reason why people are emphasizing so much on washing your hands. So the question might come, okay, what does washing hands really do? So whenever we wash our hands, we put soap in our hands. So it interacts with this outer fat layer of the protein, right? So the soap itself has a long hydrophilic or water-loving head and a hydrophobic tail. Okay, so what happens is that this hydrophobic tail basically attaches to the outer layer of the fat layer basically. So when you clean clothes, there's a drop of oil on your cloth, you put your detergent, so this oil is basically taken away from the cloth surface and into the water. So similarly, when you wash your hands with soap and there's a virus, the fat part of it attaches, the soap basically attaches itself through the tail part to the fat layer, and once you wash it with water, the other part basically takes it away. Okay, so in the process, the structure of this virus is destroyed. So you can understand why it is important to wash your hands with soap. Not even like any disinfectant soap or anything, any normal soap or even the harshest detergent is going to work. Okay, so this is the whole outer layer, if you say. There are a lot of proteins and there is a fat layer. Okay, so inside this fat layer is what is important for the virus, right? So inside this fat layer is exactly the genetic material or the hereditary material for this virus, which is the RNA, which is a ribonucleic acid. For example, for us humans, our hereditary material or genetic material is the DNA. So each cell of our body has exactly the same DNA. In case of the virus, it's a RNA, okay? It is actually a very smart strategy for the virus, okay? So the RNA, which we say is, by scientific terminology, is a positive sense RNA, which means it can readily translate itself into proteins, okay? So proteins are basically the building blocks. So in case of viruses, these proteins are basically different enzymes which carry it forward along with its structure. So what the RNA does is that once it, say, a host, so now we'll little bit, talk about how does the COVID or this, sorry, not the COVID is the disease, remember. So the coronavirus, how does this infect a host cell? So we have to understand that we're talking about this, spike proteins over the shell of the virus. Okay, now this spike proteins are very important part of the infection biology. Okay, what happens is that the host cell, like the human cell, say it can be a lung cell, it can be any cell which comes in contact with the virus, this spike protein basically attaches to a specific receptor on top of the host cell, okay, which is called the angiotensin converting enzyme 2, ACE2 receptor, which is present on all cells and especially in the lung cell, the alveoli, which is present inside your lungs. So basically once the virus finds itself in a lung, it attaches itself quickly to this host cells, okay, and then it invaginates, basically creates a place to go inside, okay, so it goes inside the cell and releases its RNA inside. So let's imagine this virus to be like a robber or a thief who comes inside your home and robs you of your resources and then creates more robbers or the thieves like them. Okay, so exactly this is what the virus does. It goes inside your host cell, releases its RNA, and using your host machinery, which is there in every cell, it produces more viral proteins. Some of these viral proteins are called, there are a lot of like proteases which basically cleave the proteins to give rise to functional proteins, and then it produces more viral particles. Okay, as these viral particles are produced, the body surmounts its immune system. Okay, so in case of lung cells, what happens is that once this immune system surmounts, there's a lot of dead cells which accumulate. Okay, even the host cells which are affected by virus, they are ultimately dead, and all of this produces a lot of inflammatory reaction inside your lungs, which basically leads to congestion, okay, and your mucus formation and inflammation in general. And more as your alveolar cells are getting affected inside your lungs, the capacity of the alveoli to exchange oxygen with the capillary decreases, which means your body is not getting enough oxygen to function. So gradually the inflammation causes more pneumonia to set in because the oxygen exchange is not happening. Secondly, what happens in a later critical stage is that the body tries to build up more of its immune response to result in what is called as a cytokine storm. So basically it's a heightened immune response against this virus. So in that case, many a time even your healthy cells start getting targeted, even leading to organ failure. So this is the pathway of how the infection basically progresses and which can even be fatal. So yeah, so this is the basic that we discussed about coronaviruses, a bit about the naming and the introduction. We talked a little bit about the structure and a bit about this infection. Okay, hope you enjoy this video. And please give your feedback. Please like, share and subscribe, and most importantly, stay home, stay safe.